What it is, innit? I could say a lot of things about him, but I respect my opponent. It's not for me to talk, it's for you to do all the talking.
Huge!
Yeah.
6'5", 6'6".
Hey, you know what could be scary too, Unc?
What that?
Even with all the training, when he feel that power one time, and he
He
have
ain't never got hit that's like getting kicked in the face by a mule.
when you feel that power, even if you parry or even if you block, and you feel that power hit them gloves.
Anthony Joshua leaks Jake Paul kicked out in sparring footage, and honestly, it is shocking because Jake Paul knocked out in sparring is a disaster on its own. And if he cannot even survive a light session, how on earth will he survive Anthony Joshua?
The boxing hardcores, they don't like it because it's like, why are they disrespecting our sport? There's an Olympic system that you have to go through, and once you're qualified there, then you go through to the professional ranks. Whereas someone with a profile can just come out of nowhere and fight.
Everyone is talking about this sparring footage, and the reactions are savage because Eddie Hearn highlights that Anthony Joshua's improvement comes from relentless training and quality sparring. Jake Paul, on the other hand, struggles just to survive a session, proving he is nowhere near ready for a real heavyweight challenge.
Guys in camp, living in camp, training with him day in, day out. And it made a big difference in the fights. I think he knows that the way that he's going to improve is time in the gym and also the quality.
Derek Chisora perfectly sums it up because Jake Paul getting knocked out in sparring shows he doesn't understand even the basics. Anthony Joshua's level is on another plane, and every silly mistake is punished immediately. In sparring, real champions learn, while Jake Paul gets exposed and humiliated, proving he cannot handle the intensity or discipline needed to survive a real fight with Anthony Joshua. And anyone watching the footage can see it clearly.
It's only different. Sparring, you're there to learn. So the guy you knocked out in sparring, he's understanding, okay, I did this silly move, that's how I got knocked out. So I'm gonna have to stop doing these silly moves so I don't get knocked out.
Seeing Jake Paul face Anthony Joshua is a David versus Goliath scenario in every sense. Jake Paul might feel big at 220 pounds, but Anthony Joshua is enormous and imposes himself like a true heavyweight. The size difference is real, and every time they met, it was clear Jake Paul realized he is outclassed. Being physically large does not mean you can compete at Anthony Joshua's level, because skill, power, and presence dominate, and Jake Paul is simply not ready.
As though Jake Paul is the bigger in this equation. Not for me. Maybe for MVP, Nikisa, Jake Paul, but not for me. I've kind of marked it or titled it David versus Goliath just because of the size difference. Like, Jake Paul's a big guy. He is. He's 6'1", 220. Probably fights around the 200-pound mark. AJ is an enormous guy. Like, he's a big unit. And I think Jake realized that when they came face to face. I don't know if that's the first time they've ever come that close. I'm sure they've met behind the scenes, but I think there was a realization from Jake Paul, like, fuck, this is a big dude. It's a very big dude who isn't coming to play. Like, there was no play with it.
Jake Paul claims he sacrifices everything and has a team working 24/7, but the sparring footage tells a different story. Despite all the supposed effort, he cannot handle a session against Anthony Joshua, and it exposes the limits of his preparation. Anthony Joshua is leagues ahead, not just in skill, but in mental toughness. The gym proves that Jake Paul's work is insufficient because talent, experience, and class always prevail over hype. And this moment made it painfully obvious to everyone watching.
Every single day, bust my balls, have a 15-person team working around the clock to help me become the best boxer possible.
Tyson Fury's reaction is brutal but telling, because even the greatest can see that Jake Paul is shockingly unprepared. Being down in sparring shows he cannot shake the basics and the cobwebs of experience. Anthony Joshua operates on a level that makes these mistakes obvious and costly. The sparring footage confirms that Jake Paul is not ready for anything close to Anthony Joshua's power or precision, and everyone who saw this moment understands just how far apart they truly are.
Question ever in it.
Shockingly terrible. Yeah, shockingly, yeah. Down. Very much down. Can't shake it. Can't shake the cobwebs.
Anthony Joshua's big power is undeniable, and the sparring knockout proves it. Jake Paul was completely exposed, and every single person watching knows that if Anthony Joshua lands properly in a real fight, it is over instantly. The difference between a professional champion and a social media fighter has never been clear. And Joseph Parker's words underline the reality that no hype, team, or effort can replace the pure destructive capability Anthony Joshua brings into the ring.
It's big power, and if he lands on you, you're done. You're out. And I picked...
Every expert watching can see Jake Paul is all show and nerves. The sparring knockout proves that all the self-belief and acting cannot overcome reality in the ring. Anthony Joshua is a master of the pain game and experience. Jake Paul may think footwork and hype give him an edge, but Anthony Joshua dominates with skill, power, and composure. And the gym footage exposes every flaw while the world watches, proving Jake Paul's theatrics are useless against a real champion.
I watched shout out to Bruce, the body language expert on YouTube.
Yeah, Bruce.
He did a deep dive into the way Jake Paul was behaving, and there were a lot of little signs that he was pointing out where he was going, look, is Jake Paul nervous and aware that this is a fucking hard fight? Yes, but he actually has self-belief. Obviously, is it delusional? We believe so. But the point is in his mind, he thinks you do struggle with smaller fighters. Footwork, things like that can be an ally to me in there.
Jesus.
I just think he's mastered social media. He's been doing this since he was a child. He knows how to put on an act. He's the world's best actor.
Nobody expected much from Jake Paul, and Moses Itauma nails it by contrasting him with Anthony Joshua, an Olympic gold medalist and two-time world heavyweight champion. Jake Paul may have done well for a social media fighter, but the sparring knockout proves he is nowhere near Anthony Joshua's caliber. Even with a decent boxing base, Jake Paul cannot match the skill, power, and experience Anthony Joshua brings into the ring. Every mistake he makes is punished immediately, and the footage shows clearly that no hype, team, or effort can bridge the massive gap between a YouTuber and a true champion.
No, I don't think anybody's expecting anything from Jake Paul. Like, he's fighting an Olympic gold medalist, two-time heavyweight champion of the world. But this YouTuber, like, do you know what? You got to take your hat off to Jake Paul. He's done amazing. He's done very well. And even me, I don't think he's a bad boxer. You know, I actually think he's a decent boxer, but you're not on the caliber of obviously Anthony Joshua. But
Alexander Usyk makes it brutally clear that Jake Paul is not a real boxer, and fighting Anthony Joshua only exposes him further. Anthony Joshua's Olympic champion pedigree and professional experience make him a completely different animal. The sparring footage confirms this, as Jake Paul cannot withstand even a training session. Watching him struggle proves that Anthony Joshua operates on another level. His punches, timing, and composure far beyond anything Jake Paul can handle. Fans and experts alike can see that social media fame cannot substitute for genuine boxing skill, and Anthony Joshua's dominance is undeniable.
Last fight, it's great because Anthony is Olympic champion, Francis Ngannou, it's second fight for boxing.
Spencer Oliver's warning is crystal clear because Jake Paul is stepping into a nightmare. Seeing Anthony Joshua dismantle Francis Ngannou shows what happens when a skilled, powerful champion faces someone out of their depth. Jake Paul has never truly faced a legitimate boxer except Tommy Fury, and even that ended badly for him. The sparring knockout proves the same story over again. Social media hype and amateur experience are useless when Anthony Joshua brings his full professional arsenal. Jake Paul is exposed as unprepared and overmatched, while everyone watching understands that Anthony Joshua is on a completely different level.
Help Jake Paul, that's all I can say. We saw that what Anthony Joshua had done to Francis Ngannou. He went out there and iced him in a couple of rounds. A guy coming from a different discipline, well, this kid's coming from another level. You know, white-collar boxing in 2018, gone through the mill, and the only boxer really that he's actually boxed, a legitimate boxer he got beat by, and that was in Tommy Fury.
Anthony Joshua is on a real high, and the sparring knockout only adds fuel to that confidence. Piers Morgan points out that momentum is everything in boxing, and Anthony Joshua has it in spades. Every session, every punch in camp reinforces his dominance. Jake Paul's struggles highlight the difference between hype and substance. Being famous online does not prepare you for a heavyweight champion in peak form. Watching Anthony Joshua move, react, and punish mistakes shows he is completely in control, while Jake Paul flounders, proving that no self-belief or team can overcome Anthony Joshua's level of confidence and power.
Actually like to predict it. All I would say is Joshua is on a real high right now.
Duke McKenzie is spot on because Anthony Joshua would never underestimate Jake Paul, and the sparring footage proves why. Jake Paul is exposed as an amateur, pretending to be a fighter, while Anthony Joshua dominates effortlessly. Every mistake he makes is punished immediately, and he is far too easy to hit. This is the difference between a trained athlete with Olympic and professional experience and a wannabe trying to survive in a world he does not belong. Anthony Joshua's skill, power, and composure are overwhelming, while Jake Paul struggles just to cope.
I don't think Anthony Joshua would take Jake Paul lightly in any way, shape or form, and it'd be so easy to hit. You're talking about a trained athlete.
Anthony Joshua is making it clear that Jake Paul is stepping into a masterclass of boxing. Landing heavy punches and exposing tricks that Jake Paul has never seen shows the gulf in experience and skill. This sparring knockout proves he cannot handle even a glimpse of what Anthony Joshua brings. Every session is a lesson, and every punch a warning. Jake Paul may think he's ready, but Anthony Joshua operates on a level that turns every mistake into punishment. Every hesitation into opportunity, and this is the reality of facing a true champion.
I'm going to land heavy punches, and I'm going to make sure I'm going to expose him to certain tricks in boxing that he may not have seen yet, and I'm going to bring him to another school of boxing that I don't think he's been exposed to yet.
Eddie Hearn confirms that Anthony Joshua is ruthless in the ring and will not take Jake Paul lightly. The sparring footage is proof that Jake Paul is out of his depth and cannot survive a real fight. Anthony Joshua doesn't play games, and every session is about domination. He will attack with purpose, timing, and power that Jake Paul simply cannot handle. Social media hype, self-belief, or a team cannot prepare someone for a champion of Anthony Joshua's caliber. The danger is real, and every punch shows why this is not just a fight, but a lesson for Jake Paul.
It's a very dangerous night's work, and AJ will be, you know, people say, oh, will he take it easy on it? AJ will be AJ. He don't mess around, he don't play with his food. He'll be going in there looking to take him out as soon as possible.
Spencer Oliver nails the reality because Anthony Joshua will not allow Jake Paul any respect or chance. The sparring knockout proves Jake Paul is already exposed, and Anthony Joshua's aggression will make it worse. Pride, experience, and skill combine to create a nightmare for Jake Paul. Every punch in sparring shows the dominance Anthony Joshua has, and every observer sees that social media fame cannot survive against a world-class champion. Jake Paul is unprepared, naive, and simply outclassed, while Anthony Joshua is ready to enforce every lesson, every tactic, and every ounce of power he possesses.
Sailing very close to the win, picking Anthony Joshua, because I know Joshua and I know him well, and he's a proud guy, and he will not want to lose any respect from this, and he knows that he's got to get this job done. So expect to see an aggressive Anthony Joshua, which is only bad for Jake Paul.
Ben Davison highlights that boxing is dangerous and Jake Paul is in serious trouble. The sparring knockout proves he cannot handle a fighter like Anthony Joshua safely. This sport demands respect, skill, and experience that Jake Paul lacks. Anthony Joshua's power, timing, and technique make every round a threat to Jake Paul's health. Social media fame or acting does not protect you from a real heavyweight champion. Watching the footage, it is clear that Anthony Joshua is not just testing him, but demonstrating why amateurs cannot survive in a world where true professionals dominate every aspect of the fight.
We'll have a
dangerous in the sense of for the health of Jake, would you say? Yeah.
Yeah, like this is a sport that we love, and I think we need to protect that. And you know, he's one of the most dangerous guys in the world to go step in a ring with. Like, you saw that with Ngannou, who was a seasoned, you know, one of the most durable men on the planet in one of the toughest sports in combat sports in the UFC. And
Mike Tyson's praise is ironic when you see Jake Paul knocked out in sparring. Potential alone cannot survive against Anthony Joshua, who has experience, power, and skill beyond any hype. The footage makes it painfully obvious that Jake Paul is nowhere near ready for a real heavyweight test. Anthony Joshua's class exposes every weakness while demonstrating how true champions train, adapt, and dominate. No amount of potential, social media strategy, or self-belief can close the gap. The sparring session is a warning to anyone who thinks Jake Paul can handle the level of a world-class fighter like Anthony Joshua.
Not to fight, but just to help each other. That would be awesome. He has so much potential. He should not be.
Michael Bisping nails the reality because Jake Paul getting knocked out in sparring proves he cannot compete with Anthony Joshua. There is no way on this earth that Jake Paul can handle the skill, power, and composure of a true world champion. Watching Anthony Joshua dominate even controlled sessions shows how overwhelming he is. Jake Paul's hype and self-belief are meaningless against someone who has destroyed top heavyweights. Every punch he faces exposes his lack of preparation. Anthony Joshua's legacy and ability make this matchup one-sided long before the bell even rings.
The reality is, he's not going to lose. There is no way on this earth that Jake Paul can beat Anthony Joshua in a boxing match. Look at what he did to Francis Ngannou.
Joe Rogan points out the absurdity of Jake Paul thinking he can compete with Anthony Joshua after struggling even in exhibition-style matches. The sparring knockout proves it is not just hype, it is reality. Facing an Olympic gold medalist and former world heavyweight champion like Anthony Joshua is on another level. Every right hand from Joshua is a threat, and Jake Paul is nowhere near ready. Social media fame and theatrics cannot prepare anyone for this. The footage exposes the truth that Anthony Joshua's power, precision, and experience are unmatched, while Jake Paul is left exposed and outclassed.
What do you think about Jake Paul, Anthony Joshua?
Realistically, it's one of the craziest propositions of all time. You take a guy who just had a boxing match that looks like a sparring match with a 58-year-old Mike Tyson, and then you're gonna fight one of the absolute scariest knockout artists. That right hand, if it hits you, you're fucked. What better way to show the world you're legit? Go get knocked out by Olympic gold medalist, former world heavyweight champion, 6'6", 250 pounds.
Anthony Joshua has shown in every session that Jake Paul is completely outclassed and unprepared. The sparring knockout proves the gulf in skill, power, and experience is massive. Are you backing Anthony Joshua to dominate? Or do you think Jake Paul can shock the world? Drop your thoughts below.